Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Your Mortgage Process. I'm your host, Greg Wareham. We got a great guest today, very good friend of mine as well, Mr. Dennis Driscoll. Thank you for joining the show today.
My pleasure, sir. My pleasure.
Now, Dennis, did you happen to notice how well I coordinate today?
I did. The jacket, the socks, the shirt. I'm like it.
I mean, there's tints of blue and there's tan everywhere.
Yeah, all right.
I knew you were coming today. I want to look exceptionally good.
I am colorblind, so I'm going to take your word for it. That's not true. That's not true. I can see.
So Dennis, thanks for taking the time today. I know you're busy. Again, we've known each other a really long period of time, and I know that you've always kind of migrated towards helping others, especially in the real estate industry. But tell us a little bit about yourself.
Been in the industry just since 99, so 1999, so 24 years now. Got into it a little later in life. I was telling someone earlier, I was a truck driver and owned a chimney company back then, and got into it to help a friend, got into real estate, and then kind of got good at it and said, hey, maybe I could do this a little bit. And fast forward, here we are.
All right, hold on. We got to talk about the chimney company for a little, because I didn't know this about you.
Okay. See?
All right, tell me about the chimney company. What's a chimney company do?
So I was a certified chimney sweep with the
like Dick Van Dyke.
Yep, Chimney Safety
we're
Institute
dating
of America.
ourselves,
There you go. I had the hat and everything. I did the whole thing, and cleaned chimneys, rebuilt chimneys, fixed them, did all of that stuff. Had that business for like 7 years.
Okay.
It was kind of a side business, then it grew, and eventually I sold it. I was in Pennsylvania, where I lived at the time, and moved down here, and brought my real estate down here. So there you go.
That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
And I know that I had said before, you've been in real estate since 1999, but you've really migrated or taken a path of trying to help others, coach others. You're an educator. You're a facilitator. Why is that important to you?
Yeah, I always wanted to be a teacher.
Yeah.
My degree's in psychology with a minor in education, but I was always a coach. I was always a mentor in some way. But really, when I got into real estate, no one helped me.
Right.
And I always said, boy, if I last 5 minutes in this business, I'm going to make sure I can help somebody else be a little more successful than I was in the beginning. So that's where I always gravitated, and I found that by teaching agents how to help clients, it filled that gap that I had. It allowed me to be an educator and help agents and help the public also.
And it's people don't understand how complicated the industry is behind the scenes. I get to the mortgage side all the time. Well, what's today's interest rate? Well, there's an answer for that question, but there's a lot of different moving parts. And in real estate, with agents especially coming in, there's so many different nuances of the industry and what you need to know specifically when dealing with the consumer.
Absolutely. I don't know if it was Gary Keller, but someone said real estate is simple. Right? It's not easy, but it's simple. Right? It's simple. Hey, you get buyers, you get sellers, you put them together, and you make money. Right? That's all there is to it. But nay, there's a lot more to this. And as far as the consumer side is, the number one thing we have to bring to the consumer is knowledge. Right? Knowledge of the process that from start to finish of buying or selling a house, geographical knowledge of an area, and definitely knowledge of the market. We have to know which way the market is trending. A good friend of mine, I think his name is Greg, always says the data shows us, data is telling us that it's going this way or it's going that way. No, so it's a knowledge that an agent has to immerse themselves in this business to be at the top of their game so they can serve the consumer at the highest level. Bottom line.
Well, let's break that down a little bit from a consumer standpoint, what the expectations are of the consumer and how a real estate agent can facilitate that. You talk about the process. What does that look like? So I'm a new agent. I'm coming in the industry. How do I tell the buyer about the process or seller?
Right. So an agent has to submerge themselves in this business and learn the process.
Right.
Because you never want the consumer to not know where they are and what's coming next. All right. And if the agent's not sure what's happening, how could the consumer be confident and feel good about how this process is going to play out?
Sure.
So we have to lay it out for the consumer from A to Z, start to finish, whether on the buy side or the sell side, exactly what's going to happen step by step. I refuse to have any of my clients come to me and say, I didn't know this could happen. I didn't know this was a possibility. Right? So you have to cover it all. Here's what will happen next. Here's what could happen next.
Right.
And that's vital.
So, and I know you teach a class specifically. One of the aspects of it is the process for people. Like, break it down for me as a consumer. So, I'm a consumer. I'm looking to purchase a house. Like, what's the process for me?
So, the first thing we want to do is get them qualified. And, well, let me even backtrack that. First thing I knew is why are they doing what they're doing? Why are you selling? Why are you buying?
Right.
What's your motivation? What's your goal here? Is it now? Is it later? Is it someday? Or is it we're just not sure? All right, so why are we doing it? When do we want to get it done by? All right, so on the buy side, if it's a buyer coming to us, where are you now? Where do you want to be? When do you want to be there? And why do you want to be there? Right? Those are vital questions to ask and get the consumer to open up to you and let you know what their plans are and their hopes and dreams are. Step two, get them pre-approved. All right, get them speaking to a lender, get them speaking to a mortgage person. Because what are we looking at if we don't know what we can do, right? What can we afford? Maybe you can afford more. Maybe you can't. Let's. I don't want to crush their dreams too early. You know,
no,
let's
it's
get
true.
out there.
I mean, you want people out there looking for something, and then they find it. It's their dream house, and they can't afford it.
Yeah, and vice versa. A lot of people, and it happened to me when I first bought, was I didn't know what I could afford really. You know, you threw a number at me, I'm like, really? You know, I was like, okay, I don't see how that's possible, but a lot of times it could go either way, and that's a great moment too when someone can afford a house or they've waited a long time to be able to afford a purchase of a property. So
you know, and there's two different parts of that. There's what they can afford from a qualification standpoint, and then there's what are they comfortable with paying on a monthly basis, and they're not always the same thing.
No.
Because you could qualify for someone, the mortgage payment's $5,000 a month, and you can approve them for that. But you know, maybe they're only comfortable being at $3,800 a month, and then realigning that search for them relative to those, to that information.
Yeah, and that's one of the ways I approach the client is I want to know what they're comfortable paying. Right. So what their monthly payment sometimes is more important to them and to me than the overall number. Right. It doesn't matter if it's a $500,000 house. Are they comfortable with that payment? Right. What's their number that they feel good about, right? Because this way we have at least something to work off. We have a baseline. And if we got to go a little higher, then at least we know where we're going higher from. We're not just hitting them broadside with this big number that they weren't prepared for.
Sure. No, it makes sense. So we got to get them pre-approved. You got to understand what their goals are, what their needs are. And to your point, which is so important, it's like, why? Why are you looking to purchase a house? Yeah. And why is it important to you? What area do you want to be in? And what's a payment that you can afford and everything like that. And we talk about the where of it. You know, how important is it for people to understand an area?
From the agent side, they have to immerse themselves in that area. Yeah. So when I get a buyer or a seller that wants to sell, but let's stick with buyers for a few minutes. When I get a buyer that wants to know to move into an area, first thing I ask them is, why that area? Why did you pick that? You have all of New Jersey. Why did you pick Manalapan or Monmouth County or Homedale? What's going on? Right. And they usually have some reason. They knew somebody, they heard about the schools, there's something that attracted them to that area. So it's vital to know that motivation and understand why they want it so we can revisit that should we need to in the future if we get a little hinked up on other things. They say, well, you wanted this area, so let's talk about it.
And you know, kind of going deeper on the area of itself, like what type of information is important for the consumer to know? You know, coming from the real estate agents. I'm a real estate agent going out there. Yeah. I'm talking to the consumer about purchasing a house in Homedale. Right. What do I need to know?
Well, again, it goes back to the consumer themselves, the buyer. What's important to them? Right. So if it is schooling, I should know about the schools, right? Now, like I said, once I get a buyer that's concentrating on the area, I'm all diving in. If I don't, I know a lot about a lot of areas, but not everything about every area. Right. But if someone is concentrating on the area, then I'm all in, right? Now I got to really look. What's the taxation situation in that area? What's the schooling situation? Where is the transportation? Where's the shopping, right? As I said earlier, what's coming into a neighborhood? What's leaving to a neighborhood? Is there industry coming in? Is there new builds? Is there something happening here? Sure. Are they constructing a new bridge that's going to take 4 years? You know, I lived in a neighborhood like that once where it was closed down for like 3 years. Yeah. And people had to know this, right? So really knowing the lay of the land, so to speak, and what's going on in that neighborhood is vital, right? Because there should be no surprises.
Yeah, you know what? And you bring a good point about are they putting a bridge up? Are they doing something like that? I was just talking to somebody today who's looking to sell their house. Their neighbor just built some monster house next door to them. And she's looking to sell her house. The person who's going to buy the house is likely going to tear it down and put a school there. Okay. So that's something, if you're coming into that area now, you want to know that they're going to build a school there. And this lady, she was a world-class person. She cleared it with her neighbor prior to it. Hey, here's who I'm thinking to sell the house to. But you have to know that. You have to know what's going on in the area.
Yeah, to another point is I drive along this Route 33 near my house all the time, heading out. And there's old abandoned railroad tracks that I pass over all the time. And then a couple of weeks back, I noticed, wow, they cleared all the brush from there. Then the next week after that, I see some track bed being laid out. So I was like, aha. So I looked into it, and they're extending the freight lines that run through up to Freehold, and they're extending them out south down through Howell, and who knows, points unknown. I'm getting more information. But that will affect some of the value of homes along that line that have been empty or unused for decades. And now suddenly there's going to be some freight trains running through there. And we actually had an agent that had a house under contract right next to the line. Luckily, it didn't affect. Everybody was fine with it. But, that's something that could have popped up later. And one of the things an agent has to know is about off-site conditions.
Okay.
What's going on around this neighborhood? You have to know.
No, it's a great way to put it. Yeah, the off-site conditions are critical.
Absolutely.
Are they putting up high-tension power lines in the area, right?
Yeah, and even if they're not putting them up, are they behind those trees over there, right? I've had that where, what's behind those trees? Then you go back there and there's a plant of some kind or a toxic waste dump or something,
And when you look at the area that someone's looking to purchase in, I mean, you have to understand from a real estate standpoint, what's the average price point in this area, right? What's the inventory that's available right now in that marketplace, because it can dictate the price.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, through our multiple listing service, and we gather data, right? And the data I immediately look at is what is average days on the market here? Right. How long are houses lasting? How many houses are available? How many months of inventory are sitting there? Are the prices going up, or are they steady, or are they starting to decline a little bit? And that's a daily thing for me. I kind of geek out on those numbers, but the average agent may not, but they really need to. Again, when they're working with someone, they're obligated to perform at that high level and know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, you have that fiduciary responsibility to the consumer to make sure that you're educating them on all those types of things.
Yeah, and they don't always want to know everything, but you have to know it. You've got to know what's going on. You don't want something coming back at you later, and I didn't know this was a possibility, or nobody told me this was happening.
Right. Just kind of backtracking for a second about, knowing a particular area, the actual geography of that area. Like different areas have different factors that can affect value or whether or not someone would want to live there, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, some towns, I look locally in our area, certain parts of the town could be a little bit more crime sensitive than other parts of the town, and that could impact value and someone's desirability to live there.
100%. So I'll use Freehold as an example. You could use any town really as an example. You have to know the neighborhoods in Freehold. Freehold, listen, has gone through a great transition in a lot of parts in the borough, let's say, but street by street could be different. Right. So you need to know these things. You need to get in your car and get out there. When your clients are looking in an area, you need to get out there even when you're not with them, see what's going on so you can find stuff and see what's happening in that area. Another part of the process is knowing which way the market is going in a town. So if someone's coming in, and how are prices? What is the trend? How are we looking? Again, we don't have a crystal ball, but the data can show us which way this is going. All right, because sometimes we'll get a buyer that comes in, I kind of love this area, but I think I want to wait a little bit. Uh-oh. Right. Well, why do you want to wait? What do you think is going to happen? Right. And they may tell us they're waiting for prices to come down, right? Which we historically know are probably not going to happen in the near future, or they're waiting for interest rates to come down. So we have to go back to that motivation that they discussed with us. So knowing which way the market is going, or a particular, and it could be neighborhood by neighborhood, as we know. Sure. Right? Some place can be up and coming, another place can be stagnant, and another place on the decline. And that can be separated by just a couple of miles around here, or even less. So it's vital that the agent know that so they can relay that. Yeah,
I mean, just kind of piggybacking off the statement that you made about, where values are going with it, I think that, people, you get that on a regular basis right now. People are waiting for values to go down or rates to come down. And, hey, who knows what happens from an interest rate standpoint, but if interest rates come down, values are going to go up, right? Yeah. I mean, I was reading an article that Barbara Cochran had written that she would project prices to go up by 15% if interest rates drop down into the fives. Right. So, kind of circling back to, there's no perfect time to time the market.
No, I was teaching a class today, and we discussed. Is this a good market to buy, or is this a good market to sell? Is this a good market to be a real estate agent?
Yeah.
Right? And then I don't like talking too much about. People don't want to hear about the past, but in 2010, 2011, when I had 10 or 15 listings, and the days on the market was 6 or 7 or 8 months.
Right.
Was that market better than this? I don't know. The market is the market, but the thing is, as an agent, your career and your income shouldn't matter on what the market is doing.
Right.
You have to be able to adapt and help the consumer through whatever market it is. You have to sharpen your skills for the market in the moment and be ready for the market that's coming.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And now's the time to do it, when you have a changing market like the one that we're in right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. The market is changing. We've been teaching the shift in market for the last 5-6 years.
Yeah.
But of course, when the shutdown and COVID hit, it changed everything. But now we're getting back to, we're seeing days on the market creep up a little bit. We're seeing prices steady at least a little bit. So those are indicators, and we have to pay attention to that. We can't just ignore it. We're seeing price drops across the board, and we're seeing expired listings, which didn't happen in the past.
Yeah, so it's starting to change a little bit.
Yeah. I felt when the market shot up, right, I felt that more seasoned agents, we'll call them. We won't call them old, but more seasoned agents were slow to accept what was happening.
Right.
I heard agents say, I would never let my client pay that much in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And then within 2 years, that neighborhood went up 40 to 50%. So you just cost your client tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right. Great point.
So newer agents didn't know any other market. So they're just going, this is the market they know. I think as this shifts now, the more seasoned agents will be quicker to adapt to the change, and the newer agents will have a harder time. Pricing things correctly, accepting the fact that they may not get 25 offers or 100 people at the open house, and that we need to be pricing and we need to be ready to have the conversations that we didn't have to have for 2 years or 3 years.
Conversations like price reduction.
Pricing it correctly out of the gate and being ready to adjust that price in a downward manner to get the people in there. And we're also going to have to negotiate again. There wasn't very much negotiating going on the last 2 years.
Or one-sided.
Yeah, you made an offer and it was yeah or no, and you were out. It's very little of, well, can we talk about the inspection process? Can we talk about the appraisal? Can we talk about anything?
Right.
Can we negotiate anything? And like you said, it was one-sided where no, we're not. But it's coming back a little bit,
So just kind of piggybacking, Dennis, talking about the perfect time to buy, perfect time to sell. It's funny, when you look at the data of everything, we know that real estate is going to appreciate historically at about 4.5% per year, somewhere between 4 and 4.5%, year over year over year. And when you look at some different lulls in the market, there's been some perfect opportunities where people have bought or they've sold, at the height of the market or at the dip of the market. But at the end of the day, if it's an asset that you're holding, it doesn't matter. Because it's only a realized gain or loss if you sell it. Right? It's like your retirement account. You can stare at the retirement account, but at the end of the day, it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. But until you're trying to pull the money out, nothing's realized.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I don't know if it was, again, Gary Keller or somebody else, but they're talking about anybody who timed the market perfectly should have just played the lottery because that's how lucky they were. You cannot time the market. There is no timing. Right? No. You don't know when the top of the market is until you're on the decline. You don't know when the bottom was until you're on the upswing. So you can only find those points looking backwards.
Sure.
You can guess and take a shot, but
it's so true. Just like we all should have bought Microsoft stock in 1980.
I bought Beanie Babies instead. So there you go. That's where I went wrong.
So a question for you from a consumer standpoint is, okay, now I need a real estate agent. How should I go about identifying the one I should work with?
Great question. How do you find? So NAR, that's the National Association of Real Estate Statistics, tell us that about 70 to 75% of people get a real estate agent from a referral of someone they know. So it's someone they worked with before or someone they know worked with that real estate agent. So that's why for an agent, it's vital to provide that ultimate customer service and client experience so that they will recommend you and know to refer you out.
Right.
All right. Short of referrals, and to me, there's everything else is short of referrals. Because if 75% of people are getting it from somebody they know, that's who you should be speaking with, is people you know and people you've worked with, or family members and coworkers, things like that. But short of that, some marketing, some advertising, but there is no magic pill there. There's places where the consumer goes. Whatever platform this consumer goes to look for real estate, they're not looking for a real estate agent first. They're looking for real estate first. Right? You just got to be in the line of sight where they're looking. Where are they looking? They're looking online. They're looking at Realtor.com. They're looking at Zillow. So if you're going to spend any money in advertising, that's where you may put it, just to get your face out there. But even there, it's a long game with big numbers and short returns, quite frankly.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I read a statistic somewhere, and I'm not going to name the company, but there were the ratio of leads sold relative to how many people actually bought a house nationally. It was like 4 times that.
It was 4 or 5 to 1.
4 or 5 to 1. Imagine if that same lead got sold over and over and over again.
Absolutely. So a recommendation to an agent is to speak to the people you know that are in your sphere of influence, and that's where you'll get your business. And my recommendation is people looking for a realtor is speak with people you know. Hey, who did you use? Were you happy with them? Or what company did you use? All right. You know, I work for Keller Williams. If you ask the average person on the street, what's Keller Williams? They don't know, because we don't advertise. We're not on the billboard. But yet we have the lion's share of the market, nationally and locally. So how does that happen? It happens through word of mouth and through referrals. So that's the way to go from the agent standpoint and from the consumer standpoint.
No, to your point, 75% of people, that's how they find their real estate agent. And I was reading a statistic that people would use their same real estate agent again like 89% of the time if that agent actually stayed in front of them.
Absolutely. So we call them like orphaned clients, right? So, and that's the exact stat. 88 or 89% said they would use their agent again, but less than 12% do.
Crazy.
So, and whose fault is that? That is strictly on the agent. You have to stay in touch with that consumer for a lifetime, you know, and just stay in touch so that you're front of mind there. I had a neighbor who bought and sold within a year. They bought a house, they were unhappy with it, and they used 2 different realtors. And I asked him, I said, how come you didn't use, you know, the guy who sold it to you? He said, he never called me. I kind of forgot him. And when I thought of the house, I didn't think of him. I was like, oh. Wow. So let's, you know, one of the things I do teach my agents is you got to stay in touch with folks, you know, and check in on them.
You know, because you think about all the time that goes into it. So when we're talking about, you know, the area, trying to explain the process, understanding an area, you know, all that time that goes into it. And then you have a client that's referred to you that you do a great job for. And that client's only going to use you 12% of the time if you're not following up with them.
Absolutely.
Like you already did all the work.
Yeah. You did the hard part. The easy part is just sending a letter or making a phone call or seeing them online. And it's so disturbing that we dropped the ball there. And it's it's a disservice to the consumer, to the client. You know, you need to be there because they may need your help. And if they can't remember who you are, because you didn't stay in touch with them, then they're going to maybe get someone who wasn't as good as you, you know, and
that's a great point.
Get someone that doesn't serve them properly.
Do you teach that in your classes?
I try to. I do. I lay it out there. It's a relationship business, right? Like much like yours is. This is a relationship business. It was very transactional for the last couple of years because of the way things were just coming and flying in and out. But it's a relationship business, and you have to feed that relationship, nurture it. That's how it grows. Otherwise, it just
and you know what? That's a great point, Dennis, because one of the things that's happened over the course of post-COVID, right? Well, say during COVID, you know, things became so transactional because it's moving so fast. You know, it's not any fault. It's nobody's fault. But when things are moving that fast, you're kind of going with it, right? And you lose sight on the fact that this life, business, everything, it's about people. It's a people business, to your point, a relationship business. And just trying to reel that back in, right? And remember that. Because that's really what creates longevity in the industry. And that's what makes, most importantly, for happy clients.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the things I talk about in the class I teach and in general is you go through this whole process of finding this person They found you. You got a relationship now. You spend weeks or months looking for places. You go through this very long process, and can be a long process with a lot of moving parts from contract to closing.
Sure.
Right, and then it's over. And I always put it's like, okay, we broke up now. Like
Right.
the relationship has ended.
Right.
Now listen, rarely there are times you're happy this happened. I'm done. Let's move on. But in general, right. There was almost a sense of loss for a second. Like, oh man, I've spent so much time invested with these folks and them with me. So what do I do now? And one of the things I preach about is that when someone purchases a home and the home closes and they move in, we should be staying in touch with them. So we stay in touch once a week for 4 weeks after they buy a house. Hey, how's it going? Any questions about the house? Are you loving it? Tell me this, tell me that. And also in those 4 weeks is one time where I'll stop by and I'll bring a little housewarming gift, a little something, to remember us by, right? And then we go from once a week for 4 weeks to once a month for 4 months, and then we go to quarterly, and then they go on our mailing list and everything else.
Sure.
And a lot of these people in my career, I've been to weddings and bar mitzvahs and brisses, you name it. I've showed up. I've been to college graduations and high school graduations and birthdays that people became friends over time. Not everybody.
I can see that, though. You're a likable guy.
I don't know about that. I have a whole family that will argue
Rosa
that point. Yeah, I was going to say. And listen, not everybody, but it's nice that you're included and you're thought of. But if you just fade out of the picture, they're not going to think of you that way. So you potentially could lose a relationship beyond the business that could have been rewarding for both sides, right? But getting back to the business side is everyone that you deal with knows a bunch of people, right? And every one of them know a bunch of people. So the sphere is ever growing. So you have to nurture each step of it, right?
Sure.
I speak to you, you may know somebody. That brings me to them, they may know somebody. And here we go. And then we're on that horse.
So when you look at new agents coming in, what's the biggest piece of advice that you could give them to making sure you're establishing those relationships with your client?
It's taking action. The agents will go to classes, and I used to teach a class, I got my license, now what? Because what do I do now? Right. Why are they not beating down my door? I have my license. But the key is about reaching out. So again, we start with the people we know and work our way out, past coworkers, past schoolmates, past neighbors, current neighbors, current schoolmates, and just letting them know that we're in this business and we're here to help you. Right? I'm not here to sell. I can't sell you a house. I can never sell a house personally. Right. I can help you find and I can negotiate the process with you, but what can I do to help you? Going forward in this industry. And that's what the first thing I start preaching to them about is don't worry about, what to say or how to say it. It's just start talking to people, right? Start talking to people and let them know what you do. Right. Hey, this is who I am. This is what I do. And I'm here to help you. Right. And take that action. A lot of people are afraid to just even make a call or tell someone. Right? I had an agent not too long ago tell me, I don't want to be that guy. I'm not going to tell my friends that I'm doing this business. I'm not going to be that guy. Very nice man, and he was in the business for 20 minutes. He's been out of business for 2 years now. Sure. If you're not going to be that guy, you're not going to last. If you don't tell people who you are and what you do, there's no longevity here.
It's like any industry, though. Like I could be the greatest doctor in the world. If no one knows I'm a doctor, no one's coming to me.
Well, that's it, right? Every business exists to get clients and serve those clients, right? Whether you have a shingle hanging out for the doctor or a big golden arch, whatever it is, you got to attract people in. As real estate agents, we have to go find them. So it's up to us to make the initiation.
Yeah, and that's a huge miss because when we look at real estate or mortgage or any type of industry, at the end of the day, I hate using the word sales because I really don't look at it that way. You need to make people aware of what it is that you do. You have to. It's about clients, and it's about, to your point, serving clients. And when you think you're not serving the client and somehow you're selling something, well, nobody wants to do that, right? No. Who wants to hard sell? Who wants to go, hard sell to your friends, to your family? Nobody wants to do that. But it's about fulfilling a need and serving people and giving them the best experience possible.
No, absolutely. And this might be a stretch, but I'm going to say something a wise man said to me not too long ago, or I heard him say, he was talking about is knowing how to make the introduction, all right? So I'll talk about our affiliate vendors in a minute, but even for clients is knowing how to introduce yourself to people you already know.
Right.
Because this is what you're doing now. You've changed careers. You've graduated or you've retired. This is now your career, right? How do you reintroduce yourself to the people in your life that this is who I am now, right? People knew me as a truck driver in a chimney sweep 25 years ago.
Right.
Oh, now you're selling houses? Well, yeah, now I am. But you have to, it's a process you have to go through, right? So,
Sure.
And a lot of people are shy or not sure how to do that. But to your point, take away the salesy part. It's not a sales. You're just saying, hey, this is what I do now. Let me know if I can help.
Right.
It's that simple. Right. We tend to build this up as this big monster we have to climb over, and it's really not. It's strictly a reintroduction of yourself to the people you already know, and then going forward, an introduction to the people you meet.
As a real estate agent, Dennis, how important is it for you to work within your sphere? So to have an attorney that you work with, have a mortgage person that you work with, title company, like how important is that to the process?
Yeah, it is vital, Greg. It is vital. You're doing a disservice to your client if you don't have those people in your stable of go-to professionals, right? Because they don't know they need a title company, a buyer. They may not understand they need a lawyer here. Not everywhere uses lawyers, right? Not even in New Jersey, right? And to have a mortgage person, well, yeah, I see mortgage commercials all the time. We have to show the difference, though, why it's more important to have someone that we can call and have a relationship with. Hey,
someone that knows the market.
Yeah, and knows the hyper-local market. Yeah. Here's what's going on here. It's great that your phone center for this other company is in Illinois, but we're here. I got someone I can call right now, and they can tell you anything that's happening from a mortgage standpoint. Let's say any programs that are going on in this area, they can walk you through this process if it's true. I have lawyers that I can put you in your hands, put you in their hands, and vice versa, so that they can walk you through that end of the process, right? And again, it has to be someone that I can reach out to at a moment's notice and get a call back.
You know what, too, and it's trust, right? Now, you and I have worked together for a long period of time. So, when we have a dialogue about something, a potential person looking to purchase a house, as an example, it's, the information that I'm giving you is accurate, right? And that's not to say that it's not accurate from everyone, but it's like any industry. There's nuances. Things change. In making sure that you're working with, whether the mortgage person, attorney, things change. Things change in the industry. And understand that you have information that's accurate that you can take to the bank. And I see it from the buyer side. Like I get involved with so many transactions after a consumer was misinformed, let's say. And, and it's a confusing process. Confusing when you're buying a home at times. That's what the real estate agent's for. Confusing when you're trying to negotiate the terms of a deal. That's what the attorney's for. And it's confusing when you're trying to find the right opportunity from a mortgage standpoint. That's what the mortgage person's for. So you got to have people in your stable that can give you honest information as the real estate agent, and most importantly, as the client. Client's got to understand and have the stability associated with that.
I agree. And we were told, I think it was 2 years ago, maybe 2022, but either way, that we had more deals fall apart, right, than in history, right? And one of the things Gary Keller talked about, and I thought about this myself for a long time, is that a lot of that could have been saved if the agent knew what to do, what to say, and had people in their stable that say, oh, wait, because the mortgage didn't go through. Oh, well, and they walked away, and the deal's dead, and now everybody's life is affected. The buyer's miserable. They get out of buying a house. The seller is angry because I thought we had a deal. So by having the right people in place, not 100% of the time, but at least I know everything is done.
Right.
Because you made the call, and we walked to the logical conclusion and got to the end, whether hopefully it was a sale or here's why it can't proceed, right? But at least, like you said, there's trust and confidence there that I know I'm getting that information from the right people.
Yep.
And relaying it to my clients.
Yeah, no, great point, Dennis.
And I always say to my clients, I say, listen, I don't get anything from these guys. Here's what I get from them. I trust them to get us through the process, get you to closing, and look out for you every step of the way.
Right.
And what more could you ask for? Right. From a lender like yourself, an attorney, title company, even an inspector.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, and to that point, Dennis, that's the same thing I've done in my career. I've been in it since the late 90s as well. I think it came in 1997. I've associated myself with a stable of people to make sure that we can give the best customer service, the best transparency with people that are looking to make the biggest financial investment of their life. And when you look at mortgages as a whole, I get a stat for you. So when you look at consumer debt in this country, there's $17 trillion in consumer debt. How much of that do you think is mortgage? Over 70%.
Oh, okay.
$12 trillion in mortgages. When you put home equity lines on top of it, it's like $12.5 trillion. Now, to put that into perspective, there's only about $1 trillion in credit card debt. That's how big of the gap is. That's where all the money's at.
Yeah.
It's all in that area. And when people are looking to borrow that kind of money as an individual, as a society, man, you got to have the facts. You got to make sure you're working with the right person to make sure it gets done the right way at the best possible interest rate possible.
Absolutely.
So with that, I know, anyway, you've been on tour doing a lot of different things. You're facilitating classes, you're educating. If someone was interested in being in one of your classes or being coached, being mentored, that type of thing, what's the best way to reach out to you, Dennis?
Definitely just reach out, call me, text me. It's all good. Come to the office. Yeah.
What's your phone number?
It is 732-546-6430. That's 732-546-6430.
And another question, you're still actively selling real estate.
Absolutely.
So if someone's looking to buy or sell their home, they would use that same number to reach out to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Just so my coaching clients know I'm not actively competing with them.
Right.
I'm working mostly with folks I know and past clients.
Yeah,
but
referrals.
Always open. If you have questions, come to me. I'll be happy. If not, work with me. I'll put you in the right hands of someone that can guide you.
That's fantastic. Dennis, thanks for taking the time today.
Appreciate you,
It's
sir.
a pleasure having you on the show. And I want to thank everyone out there for watching and listening today. Greg Wareham with Your Mortgage Process. Look forward to catching up with you next week. Bye, guys. Thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of Your Mortgage Process, hosted by Greg Wareham, produced by Greg Wareham and Nick Pavis at The Social Rift, and executively produced by The Social Rift. Thank you again for tuning in, and we look forward to catching up with you next week.